So I started to think about, how can I use this knowledge of how my brain is organizing and reorganizing and changing itself to basically create the experience of life that I want for me?
So change patterns. You're kind of
Change
talking about
patterns.
change the patterns that you're already experiencing in your life
Exactly.
that aren't working for you.
Exactly. And so thoughts work this way too. Patterns of thinking also have a particular pathway in the brain, and they have a particular map in the brain. And you know, in NLP, one of the big sayings in NLP is the map is not the territory.
Right.
We're always talking about how our minds construct a map of our reality, and it isn't our reality, it's our mind's idea of it. And so now we know, okay, this is actually happening in the physical brain too. So what can I do to reorganize my map? Basically to take the patterns of thought that I'm running in my mind and make them more workable for me. So let's say that I identify something that's not serving me, and we were talking before about, you know, sometimes people get up in the morning and you wake up and realize you're awake and go, ah, crap, you know, another day, here I am. This sucks. I hate my life. I hate my job. What do you feel? And you feel terrible. You wake up feeling awful, and your energy gets depleted. And so, okay, so that's a pattern. And every single time that you do that, that pattern becomes stronger. Right. So this is the second aspect of the neuroplastic research that really fascinates me, which is that some of the researchers use the term competitive real estate. So it's like you've got real estate in your brain. There's certain portions of your brain that are running these different functions. And let's say there's a little area of the brain that's running, I feel crappy in the morning. Every time you have that experience and you get that, I wake up and just go, ugh, and I feel like, so that pattern becomes stronger. It starts to take up more space, literally, in the brain. There's more neural connections forming to reinforce a pattern every time it runs.
And then I make up, the harder it is to change it.
Exactly.
Once it starts getting so concrete.
And this is why what happens is it starts to feel like this is just the reality of who I am. This is my life. And we accept it, and we think that that's just what it is. This is what experience is. So this is the key point, is to realize that no, this is not life and experience and me. This is a pattern set in my brain, and I have set this pattern in my brain by my behaviors and my responses and my reactions.
So it's about taking responsibility. You know?
Absolutely. And not only is it about
that.
Yeah, well, and it's about taking responsibility for how you feel, and taking responsibility really for your own freedom. To realize if I set a different path, then eventually the one that has been running will diminish and become weaker, and the new one will become stronger, and it'll take over that real estate, and it will get bigger and more powerful, and it'll run, and that's going to be our experience, and that's going to be our reality. So what's happening is most of us in our lives are allowing our real estate to be taken over by whatever happens to be there, whatever runs.
It's so, like, you know, as you're talking, I'm seeing like an album, those old, like big albums.
A groove,
what
right?
What are they called? I forget. Like a real
LPs,
an LP.
LP,
yeah, I know half the people who are probably watching this don't even know what that is.
Right.
But I could see like a groove in that album that you just get into.
Exactly. You get a deeper and deeper groove, and then you can't get out of that groove,
and
right?
so what you're doing is actually kind of moving out of that groove, creating a new, almost a whole new neural pathway.
Right.
And so that's your new way of thinking. That's a new link. It almost becomes a new link. So when you wake up in the morning now, it's linked to something that feels a little bit better. It's you're excited about your day, and that's just becomes almost as automatic as the old pattern was, just by the virtue of what, thinking it over and over, repetition. How do you change that?
Well, that's
groove?
the question. How do you change the groove? So that's the $10,000 question. And so, of course, you know, Mitch and I, both practicing hypnotherapists and working in NLP, we have techniques for how to change these patterns. That's basically what hypnosis is. That's why people come to a hypnotist. But let's say you don't want to go out and do hypnosis, or that you're not going to be doing that every day. Maybe you're not a trained hypnotist. Probably Mitch, like myself, we do this every day. We practice these techniques with ourselves because we know that, you know, more is open to us if we do. But there's some very simple things that anyone can do without a whole lot of training that are going to let you reset these patterns. And what you said, Mitch, you said, so what do you just think something different? And probably a lot of you out there have heard lots and lots of information about think positive thoughts and, you know, think something different and everything will change, and have tried this and gotten very poor results. And there's a reason for that. And it finally occurred to me, and I even thought, so why can't I just think something different and get a different result? It just doesn't seem to work that way. Now maybe over time it does if I really force myself to think something different, think something different, think something different, and make a very great effort. I can change it over time. But it seems very slow. and largely ineffective. The real gem that came to me from this reading about this neuroplasticity research, they were saying that, well, so what does it take to set a new pattern? Well, when you set a new pattern in the brain, you have to create new connections, new neurological connections, actually little ends of the nerve cells connecting to different places. And that's going to start the new pattern of thought. But you also have to do something about the pattern that's already in place, because it's very big and strong. And if you set this new one, it's just going to get eaten up by the pattern that's already there. Right? So you have to disable the current pattern as well as establish a new one. You have to do these two things. So you can think the positive thoughts, and that's great, but how can you disrupt the pattern that's already there? Well, NLP kind of has an answer for this, as does hypnotherapy. What you need to do to change a pattern of thought is you have to experience this pattern in a different way. You have to experience it differently. How can I do that? So let's say I get up in the morning and I'm feeling like crap. You can simply change it in your mind, in your internal experience. So this is the thing. The way to change an existing pattern is to begin to experience it differently in your imagination. And you have to actually have a different experience. You have to really engage the imagination like the way a child does. You have to get into it and feel it in your body. You have to see in your mind's eye, what does it look like when I open my eyes in the morning and I feel good? There's bright sunshine coming in and my body feels tingly and alive and warm, and at an emotional level I feel this exuberance and excitement, anticipation, what's going to come now? It feels great. Really, it takes that level of engagement. You've got to get in it and make it a different experience, not just think about it being different, but feel it in your body. Now you've set a different set of input to the same situation. So you're looking at that same experience. I'm getting up in the morning, I know what that means. Wait, now it means something different. So what you're doing is basically you're saying that this pathway that you've set is now not appropriate. It's not running the same thing, so those neurons have to disconnect. They have to disconnect in order for you to have that experience.
You know what I tell my clients, and I tell myself this all the time when I do this, is I have myself, I say step into the character of you in the experience of whatever that is you're wanting. Because so often, Brandy and I have talked about this on the show before, disassociated versus associated. So a lot of times when people visualize, they're seeing it as if it's happening as a movie out in front of them, and that's great. It's a good start, but you need to pop right into that body and be seeing it right out of your own eyes, so that you're getting the feeling in your body, and that's what starts to really shift.
So know what works best for you. Experiment, play around a little bit. You know, this is not, I'm not saying that there's an easy solution here, pop the neuroplastic pill and everything's fine. You have to work it. But what I'm saying is, just like someone who's had a stroke and has lost the use of their arm is going to go out and work and train and even do drastic things like, in some research cases, you know, tying up their other arm so they can't use it, and all of a sudden finding, wow, okay, now my brain has learned a new way to use this arm and it actually can. Do the same thing with your day-to-day experience.
And you know, it's so funny when you say work it, you got to work it. You know, you really do. You have to make a commitment to this, to it, and do it every day. But it's so funny to use the word work.
Because it's so fun.
It's so fun. I mean, if you're actually stepping into the character of you feeling good, looking good, doing whatever it is you're wanting, wake up in the morning feeling great, really successful at your work, whatever it is that you're wanting, it's actually really fun.
Well, and I think the big thing, Mitch, and maybe you've experienced this too, is that the work part comes in the decision to do it.
Right, exactly.
It's the feeling that it's worth doing. And so really this is why I wanted to come here today and present this to all of you, to say there is a way out from the patterns in your life, and it's worth doing. You know, you are worth having a different experience of you, and all you have to do is choose to have a different experience, and it'll come if you step into it and just play it, make it real. And make it real in your body, in what you perceive in that inner mind. It's kind of like the Matrix. You know, you got to plug yourself into that thing and say, okay, now I'm in a different world, I'm having a different experience. But that actually will begin to reset the patterns in your life.
And it doesn't take long. It takes 10, 15 minutes a day of plugging yourself into the Matrix and being in the character of you, having the experience of what you're actually wanting and the joy and feeling good about it. And so, it starts changing really fast.